And we're live.
What's up?
Oh, don't do that. Never do that again. Actually, that was no one wants to be greeted with that way. They can't see you. They don't know that you're some sort of attractive, muscle-bound freak when you say that.
That makes it even better.
You just sound like some rabid. What? Look, last episode we were talking about getting into different situations, going out and spending time with family, and we really focused on Christmas, but and doing things that you like. But I'd like to point out that once we went to Georgia, just the two of us for like a whole week, and that was probably one of the greatest times away from the canvas that I ever had.
Yeah, that was a real spiritual trip. I mean, seeing Duncan, hanging out in the mountains, hiking.
And it's not like we were doing it. I mean, we weren't like tripping on LSD in the mountains or anything. We were just we were just there. We were doing one day we did some good hard work getting Duncan was cutting up those trees, remember?
Yeah.
Another day
Hauled
we
logs.
just went hiking, sat by fires.
It was a real meditative break from painting. We sketched here and there, but it was a creative environment without any creating happening, if that makes sense.
It was really weird because it wasn't like the place was very interesting. And I think it just came at a point in our lives after where we were stepping away from. It's not a time in our lives where we normally would have had a vacation. We had just graduated and we were just like, well, let's go.
Well, yeah, it became a peaceful break, but we also spent probably every second. If it wasn't us out hiking or on that damn zip line, we were talking to Duncan nonstop. So it was, we were expressing something the whole time and trading ideas.
What I was getting at is like, you go through school and life. And so before the trip, I think we were probably having some sort of something we were supposed to be doing. And then after the trip, we had to go back into real life. And I just think it was almost like pressing pause. And, in no other scenario would you be holding a beer and then ziplining it at 8 a.m.
Well, I like that you said taking a pause, and I think that's something important that people need to do when they get the chance. We were both. I was in a spot of a lot of confusion, trying to decide what I was going to do after school and where I was going, and even though I was already accepted into grad school, there's still a lot of uncertainty. So, it was
when are you going to press unpause? Do you think? I'm kidding.
I know. I'm waiting to press play again. No. There's a chance to get introspective a little bit away from any, I guess, daily environment and people that I see every day. It was a chance to look outside and not worry about all the other stuff.
And I think it's easy to assume that you press pause sometimes when you're really not. Maybe you stop painting or stop looking into art to go make dinner, which I love cooking anyway, but you're doing it every day, or you're going to the gym, or you're spending time with your wife or friends, or going to sleep even. It can feel like you're pressing pause, but I don't think that counts in this scenario. I think that I'm going to use an analogy. I used to play a lot of Final Fantasy games, and you would have save points because they realized that you shouldn't and couldn't play the entire game all the way through, that it was a necessity to pause the game indefinitely and then come back to it refreshed.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that art is a game, but it should be. I mean, it should be enjoyable and it should be a struggle. And you should have to press that save button sometimes and then just go do something. I would say that conventions for some people are those things, to just be away from the studio.
Right. And we keep bringing up Spectrum, but that was a kind of press pause moment for me in my life. And even over this past holiday, which we talked about last episode, but it was a pause moment for me because I stopped working. Stressful moments, my mind was off of it for a little bit, and I was able to think about the bigger stuff that affects my work. And I came back ready to paint, and I just finished probably the best portrait I've ever painted. And you benefit from those little breaks.
Yeah. I think that I always used to say this, but it's something that I haven't changed my mind on once throughout my years, is that my limited amount of years, is that when I'm not painting, after a certain amount of time, I start feeling an itch, like in my skull and my brain, some sort of small pressure and something pulling at me. And even if I'm taking a break or on vacation or something like that, it's always there. And so you can't stop thinking about art. Your brain's always there, thinking about what you were doing when you left. Your brain's working out problems. That's the old saying, think about it really hard and then stop and it'll come to you, because your brain's going to keep thinking it. I am excited to move on to the other step of my Gold Star campaign, because after watching Star Wars The Last Jedi, which everyone should watch, I was looking at how they were capturing some shots, and it's like years of trying to figure out different compositional camera angles just kind of clicked in an unwordless way.
Right.
So
it's a new perspective, which is just what I've gained from every break.
It's a double entendre. A new perspective on new perspectives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's those compound ideas that lead to breakthroughs.
Compound ideas. Yeah. I think that you have those ideas a lot, whether, when you're on those hiking through the woods, it's impossible to constantly be like, how would I paint this or that or this or that, or look at this color, look at the way that light's hitting that. But things can snap into place at weird times. I've been sitting in restaurants and looked over at the way something's reflecting on wood and had something click before.
Definitely. It's every time I take a break from painting or just walking around now, especially after painting that portrait this past week, it's almost impossible to break looking at someone's face, and it instantly breaks down into light and shadow and midtones, and I don't know, it's fun for me. I like that.
It makes me think of Monet, who said that as his wife lay on her deathbed, he was sad because he couldn't stop thinking of the cool grays on her skin.
It's a beautiful thing. The more I dive into the art life, the more that my eyes have adjusted to seeing things differently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an unsaid language, definitely.
That's divergent from our taking pauses, but
no, I don't think so. I mean, it isn't, because we were talking about how your brain continues to work. So sometimes my grandfather's an engineer, and I once tried to explain the way light bounced to him and created warm and cool colors, because he was talking to me about art and the science of light, and he was just like, what are you talking about? Because I mean, someone like that, they're understanding the different wavelengths of light and how it reflects, clearly, because they have to, but they're not thinking of it in color and how color is subjective to each other and how it's interacting with our eyes. They're just thinking of it in a vacuum.
Right. It's Kelsey and I have sat at dinner before and talked about the same thing, and she's always bewildered by how I see things, because say we're sitting there with glasses in front of us full of a drink, and she looks at it and says, "It's my drink," and I'm looking at it and I'm looking at every single reflection and highlight and the color and how it all interacts together, and like I can't look at stuff and not think that.
Yeah. I think that's where challenges come in too. Like, I have a painting coming up where I think it's a double portrait, but it's through, you're viewing the subject through a window. So I'm also going to be painting the reflections of what he's seeing through the window. And it's like, I'm not looking forward to it, but I am, because it means I get to do a lot of research. And anytime I dive into research, I learn something. So that's fun.
Definitely. I'm
Some,
I'm trying to take on a new challenge too, and it's uh, going back and looking at every painter I can think of that has attempted it or achieved it, and it's in plays. That's one of the most fun parts.
yeah, yeah. It's good to go back and look at other painters. I do. I've been looking at a lot of Howard Pyle and Dean Cornwell and seeing how economic they were with their brushstrokes and trying to loosen up on my paintings because I can be really tight sometimes. But I don't know. I learned to paint with still lifes, so that is really hard for me to get away from.
Right.
And I still love, we were at the Sam, and I was just taken aback by a still life they have over there, and every single stroke in the still lifes are enacting the life that the painter saw, and I was like, man, this is beautiful.
Well, how about you? Your newest piece had some really intense architectural elements to it. So I'm interested to know how you and your strict love of architecture and then softening up with your brushstrokes are playing in together now.
I don't think I did. I don't think I caught on to it enough or early enough to make any difference. But I think that if I could redo it, which is actually a good idea, I should try and redo it just as a test. Most of that background probably wouldn't even be there. Yeah, I was looking at the Wyeth show. Go look at Andrew Wyeth. Don't even look at his figures. Go look at like some interiors that he painted, and he will just straight make some things. He just won't paint some things. Like I saw, it's like his painting of a man holding a gun, his friend holding a gun the gun was just a big black shape, and adding in white for the reflections of the wood and the metal and everything. But it was all basically two colors, but it looked exactly like a gun. You knew exactly what it was, and the
Right.
way the person was holding it. And I'm like, man. And Wyeth was an extremely tight painter when it came to especially like people and grass. But yeah, and I think he hated painting things. Like there's skillets hanging from the wall. He's not even like painting the nail or the shadow, and you're just like, oh man.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see achieving that level of success as a painter and saying, I'm not painting this little crap anymore. I'm over it.
I want to challenge myself to paint something and totally obliterate the shadows, but not make them black, kind of
Well, I
pull
mean,
Rembrandt out of it.
you see what you're talking about in Wyeth, Turner, where you get an exceptional level of detail, and then it seems like the scene just kind of disintegrates at the edges.
Right, and
And
I've always loved that. That's
the
something I
same,
really love about Nick Alm. We talk about Nick Alm.
yes, his he takes that to another level, I think, because you get the perfect portrait that's not so tight that it seems dull, but has just enough life to it, and then at the edges, everything just dissolves. That
Yeah, I've got to get better at dissolving my edges. It's something that they teach, and again, it's one of those things that's easy to say. You come into that a lot. Like I can tell you, no matter how often I tell you that the back of a head, if you're painting a face, the back of a head is never important, and you should never even show that outline. That's very difficult to do because we see it. We see the outline. It's there.
right. Oh, it's a very challenging thing, and even I'm working on two pieces now where I'm trying to blend these abstract elements with my figurative work, and finding that balance where the two meet and I dissolve, as we're saying, is one of the hardest things I've had to do.
I've been looking at. I followed the Jonathan Levine. Is that it?
Yeah,
Gallery on Instagram, and the artists that he shows are always mixing realism and geometric, colorful shapes. It's really jarring. It's extremely jarring when you pull up Instagram and see those sorts of things because it
yes,
hurts your brain. But also, I think the courage that it takes to do that. Like on one hand, these are incredibly realistic and detailed painters that are just like, you know what? It's just going to be a triangle here, just a straight triangle.
yeah, and sometimes it becomes very difficult to read, and then sometimes these guys pull it off really beautifully, and Man, it's a hard balance to find. But I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think of I go and looking at Donato's work from time to time because he's someone I think that surreal, almost abstract with some of the stuff, but
You know what's weird
he's
about Donato is I'm sorry.
no, he pulls it off perfectly on those detailed pieces.
I was going into Donato's library, his gallery, and trying to find a piece in which he had obliterated shadows or made something incredibly abstract. And I think that he has the same love for items that I do. Like, there's never anything that's not rendered to a finish. And I really enjoy, I mean, sometimes, but very rarely. And I like, I mean, even if there's a bright highlight, he's still rendering those shadows. And I like that. But he's doing it in a much more masterful way than I am. I think he's learned to kill some more darlings than I have. But really, go look at his stuff and be like, where is he obliterating things? And it's difficult to find.
It is, and that's progress that I'm glad to see in my portrait work, at least. Killing my darlings and kind of loosening up my shadow strokes and taking bigger strokes, and how much more beautiful it looks in the end.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely, digital art has not helped me to loosen up.
See, that's a problem I agree with, because when I first started doing digital work, and even now, avoiding technical detail is the greatest challenge because of the resources at hand. It's hard for me to work with the tablet and not do it precisely because I don't get the same tactile effect as the brush.
Yeah, but you've always liked small brushes. I think you like small brushes more than I did. I didn't think that was possible. Somebody needs to put you in a room with a 2-inch brush one day and force you to paint a 1-inch face. That's what you need.
I've gotten better.
I don't know.
But I paint really oddly with little brushes. I don't paint like you did.
Have you ever tried Notan, the Japanese style of drawing?
No.
It is only painting in a connected black line and shapes.
That went horribly for me.
Yeah, you should. I mean, I'm not telling you to try it, but you should definitely look it up. It's pretty cool.
I'm down for any exercise that I can add to my routine.
Are you?
Yeah.
Even like chin-ups?
That one's already knocked out. That's in the books.
You did the chin-ups. I feel like at what point do you stop doing, like, once you can do pull-ups, should you ever do chin-ups again?
No, you should just do pull-ups.
That's what I'm thinking.
That becomes your new life.
Pull-ups. And like, at what point do you,
do pull-ups until you die.
Every day, right?
Yeah, it's the most important exercise.
Really? Damn, I gotta get a pull-up bar in here.
Man, if you can't pull your own body weight up over something, very, very important.
That's true. I can think of a lot of movies where people couldn't do that and died.
You're gonna fall off that cliff.
Or if you can't hold your own body weight with one hand, you're gonna lose your friend off that cliff. You know, it's a two-way street.
You know, that's if everyone was that strong, I think it would solve a lot of problems.
I think movies,
food shortage though.
Food shortages and movies would have a lack of story. Sometimes, you know. Think of what would have happened in The Hunchback of Notre Dame if he could have just pulled that guy up and been nice. Or like the Beauty and the Beast. You know, when Gaston falls, you know, what if the Beast could have just helped him back up? That would have been cool.
Nah, Gaston would just shot him in the face because he was an ass.
I wasn't talking about gun violence, man. Come on. This is an art podcast. You're over there talking about shooting people in the faces.
I know, man.
What is that?
So what's the next Gold Star painting? You haven't told me yet.
Yeah, because I don't know. Well, I somehow...
You're developing the storyline.
Right. Yeah, I got all the thumbnails done, but whenever I did the thumbnails, I looked back on this painting and the one that's supposed to come after it, and I just feel like there's a missing piece. So I'm gonna try and tackle maybe. I gotta find an in-between scene. I think I've got some options. Either way, it's gonna have some ships. I won't have to take any reference for it. Um, just a lot of ships, maybe going through the their version of hyperspace, hyperspeed. I don't know. I'm gonna throw a challenge in there so I can keep it interesting for myself. Try and do it very quickly. Try and work in. So I think if you're having something moving really fast, what better time than to work out all these blurry brushstrokes we're talking about. So those are some things that are going through my head. What's relevant to me? What should I improve on from the last time I painted ships? Looking at other people that painted ships. I don't like looking at other artists while I'm working, but I think I could learn a lot.
Well, in your genre, there are a lot of imaginative items that it can only benefit if you crowdsource the idea.
Yeah, that's something I'm looking forward to with something like releasing a Patreon, because I could ask people what they think. It's like, what do you guys think about this? Should I change? Although, like, you think of something like Cowboy Bebop, which is one of my favorite sci-fis I've ever seen, or even Star Wars. Like, those ideas weren't necessarily crowdsourced. It was just one guy's vision that came to fruition. And I don't know. So that's why it's a little scary, because I don't want it to just be just juried to the point of stagnation, neutrality.
Right.
But I also don't like painting. I've never been interested in painting spaceships, so I don't know why I'm doing a space western. I would much rather just paint my characters robbing space banks, So maybe I should do that. You know what? Total 180 here.
Why don't you paint that scene?
I'm getting to it.
I want to see that scene. I want to see a hangar scene.
Well, I'm establishing the grounds for my story and my characters before I can put them together and start going on some adventures with them. I'm creating this premise. I don't even know what's going to happen. I've had ideas of, and I'm going to shoot in different directions. I've had ideas of like people being teleported to a medieval era, so that way I can just totally change it up and give them some swords. I think that would be cool.
What a plot device.
Right? Yeah, well, I can do anything I want.
Totally switch it up.
That's what's so exciting. I would be very interested in opening something like a Patreon if it's successful, and doing a continuous ebb and flow of a story that like has no end to it. I think that would be cool. But using, have you ever seen Cloud Atlas?
Yes, of course.
So basically using the same type of character tropes in different situations, just throwing those models and characters at different walls and seeing what sticks. Not necessarily having any sort of end story, or even doing like little one-shot stories would be neat.
Well, that brings up an interesting idea that I think I've seen on Patreon, some serialized content, maybe comics of sorts, illustrated stuff. But the idea of doing a Patreon for a continuous story that you're developing, and say you break it into something that compares to seasons of a television show, and that's something you keep on going forever and can continue to be an original story forever until you decided its end.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's a totally unique idea that hasn't been approached on that.
Well, I'd like to do something kind of like in my heart. I wouldn't, because I have so many different interests in history and what I enjoy, and coming into a space, a mindset where I can say, you know what? So for instance, I love looking at old palaces and architecture of kind of grandiose times. The pedestal that I took for my recent painting, the council one I released today, the balcony that they're standing on, I just straight took that from the Louvre. It's pretty much an exact replica. And I don't mind because I liked it, so I wanted to paint it, so I threw it into my story. And I would love to do that with different themes. Basically, I want to make Sucker Punch, but good.
I wish someone would.
It was such a good idea, and then it went downhill. But I want to make it good, or like the Matrix, the Animatrix, but good. Basically
Yeah.
anything I like, but then good.
The Animatrix was good.
Some of it was good.
Some of it was good.
Some of it was good.
The majority of it was good.
Or like think about Blade Runner and then none of that. I don't want any of that.
That's fine. Don't
No Blade Runner.
you shouldn't idolize that.
No.
I think this is something you should go at full steam ahead.
I might play with it. We'll see. I'm gonna finish the story that I have in my mind first.
You and playing with things.
Yeah. Well,
Patreon that story. Patreon everything.
I am. I'm gonna do that. When are you gonna start a Patreon?
Do I get a few more paintings behind me?
Start it today.
I'll start it this week. I'll have 2 more paintings finished this week.
Yeah. The cool thing about Patreon for me is like even if this sucks and no one wants to reward me for it, it's like, well, I guess I got some data back on that. But the cool thing about Patreon is like I can constantly rename it. I was just checking the settings today. I can even change my name. It doesn't matter.
Well, then it's perfect.
I can become a totally different person overnight according to Patreon.
See, you're breaking out into that, and I'm breaking out into word of mouth, hopefully, with this portrait commission.
Yeah.
I'm attacking the local market.
That's good. Well, I think everyone should.
I am more than happy being a portrait painter, and this is something I hope comes to fruition. The person that commissioned my latest painting is the equivalent of like a city council member, so it comes with a few friends, I think.
I think that business is incredibly lucrative and incredibly confusing or not confusing, but kind of crazy because when I say average person, I guess I mean not knowledgeable about the profession of art. And I don't think they understand the pricing of it. I think people that aren't me put a very heavy price on paintings sometimes if they're into them. So, for instance, Delta State paid me $3,000 to paint that portrait.
Right.
I did it in 3 days, and that still blows my mind. But no one else could have done it.
No, and I think that they paid the standard for what the rest of the portraits were.
Right. Maybe my portrait wasn't as good, but they needed someone to paint the portrait, and I painted the portrait.
It is extremely lucrative, but you're right. People are unaware and sometimes shocked at the cost. But that's something I wanted to talk to you about, was you pricing your work. Like we were just talking about some cover work you were possibly going to be doing, but I don't think a lot of people know how to approach pricing in general.
I think that is the most asked question in art student or artist history is what should I price my work as? Because I hear answers to it over and over and over again, and I've got an answer, and it's I don't know. The correct answer is whatever you think you can get. I used to hate it, and I still definitely hate it when people contact me and say, what are your rates? I hate that question more than anything else, because if you undercut yourself, and you're always going to know you could have gotten more, right?
Right.
And if but you also don't want to lose a client because you're heavily overpricing, right? Both of those things come into contact and usually you usually lean toward underpricing is something I learned.
Yeah.
And when it comes, the best advice I ever got about that was I was talking to a framing friend of mine, Dave. You remember Dave?
Yeah, to Dave.
I was just hanging out with him one day and I said, this person's offering me $80 to paint this portrait. And, the materials are only going to cost me like 10. I'm going to make some money, but I'm not sure if I should take it. And he was like, and this is when I'm in college. And this is after I had sold that $3,000 portrait, so it really skewed there. And he said one of the first things I learned was people would come in here, and I wouldn't be blunt with any of the pricing. I would be scared of losing their business, and I would just underprice them. And 9 times out of 10, when that happened, I would be upset while I was doing the work because I didn't feel like I was being compensated. I would be upset when they didn't pay me enough. I'd be upset when all the materials were gone. But there was no one to be upset at other than myself. I'm the one that priced it.
Right.
And that's how I feel about painting. Think about the time and effort that it would take you to paint a portrait or a commission, and then let's say you painted that portrait. How much did you get paid to paint that portrait?
That portrait came at a good friend discount.
Okay. How much would you charge for the next person?
For the next person, for that portrait, for any portrait from now on, I'm following what we talked about, and it's going to be $1 per square inch.
$1 per square inch. This is, and see, like for an 8x10, that's $80, right?
Right, for an 8x10, but as you get bigger, it increases exponentially.
Yeah, right. So, but $80 for an 8x10, an 8x10 portrait would still be the same amount of work as an 11x17 portrait, unless you effectively, while you're painting it, don't put as much work into it, which is really difficult. So
true. Well, I would say $8 per square inch if it's just a portrait of a person with a standard background.
Right.
That would go up as items in the painting increased. Composition increased.
Right. That's what I used to say is like, these are basic rates for one person. If you want me to add more, then because you'll find people that are like, I want 10 figures in this painting, I'll pay you $1,000. And it's like, no.
Increase the price, period.
So what I did is I figured out, it takes like 2 seconds, figure out the cost for an 8x10, 11, all the standard frame prices, figure them out, and then round them to an even number. So that way it's easy for people. And then say like, so that way when people ask you your rates, you can just send them that list. And then you can be like, and custom sizes are $1 per square inch. And then adding things is negotiable. But what I was getting at is, somebody pays you $80 for that painting, and then I don't know, unless you do that in like 3 or 4 days, I think you're going to end up losing your mind, because on that 5th day, you're going to be like, I'm only getting $80 for this. And then you have to like figure out how to make it look good, presentable, not good. The painting will look good, but presentable, and then delivering it, and then all the invoicing. I got into something for some reason. I got sidetracked. We were talking about pricing paintings.
No, you're still on pricing paintings.
No, I understand that, but I was thinking in a larger scale of like, so anyway, thinking of commissions, you have companies now that are coming to offer you maybe like $400, $300, $1,000, $3,000. And I think that the answer is $1 per square inch is something I use or other people have used that I stole to gauge actual interest, which works really well on a one-on-one level. If you have some biddies from your hometown asking you like, can you paint this portrait of my mom? You tell them, well, it's $1 per square inch. Then they're like, oh, that's too much. Then you know whether they were really serious or not.
Right.
But when you've got so if Chase Bank came and said, can you do a portrait of our president for us? Then you're going to be like, well, my going rate is $10,000. And you just
absolutely.
Really,
So what about you and your work now?
I
mean, if you're comfortable talking about it, it's just giving people a point of reference.
I am always comfortable talking about money. I have the same method that I use to get better cameras on eBay, which is selling them and then selling them at the cost I bought them for, and then buying a new one. So I'm only spending $100 every 3 years or so. Anyway, so I do the same thing essentially, which is every time I get paid a price for something, the next time somebody asks me, I will bump that price up to $100 or $200. And I haven't done that much work. So like the first character portraits I did were like, I don't know, $40. And then the next time somebody asked me, it was, I think, $70. And the next time somebody asked me, it was $100. And then as far as like full scale scenes go, the first time I did it was 150, then 400, and now it's 800. So when I'm pricing things, and that all comes back to what I was saying, is usually about the end of whenever I'm doing something, I'll be like, I should have gotten paid more for this, but you can't change it then because you didn't know how much work was going to go into it because you're just starting your career. So anyway,
Right.
I'm excited now because now I can say, you know what? I got paid $800 to do this painting. I know that there are people that will pay me this. If you're offering me 400, I don't want anything to do with you anymore.
True.
Unless, I mean, there's always extenuating circumstances, but
It's just setting that standard every time for your work and where you think it is
right. Yeah.
behind you.
Right. But yeah, you get it's almost like titles to a prince's name, right?
Yeah.
You get more important every time you get one. Like first you're Bear, the art graduate, and then you become Bear, the commissioned painter and art graduate, and then you become Bear, the I don't know, what are you now?
Duh. Just a bear.
You just add facets to your name and for everything you do. Yeah. That would be a good way to price yourself. That would be funny. So like every time you win an award or get a new commission, put it on your resume and then put how much you're increasing your prices. for every award I win, I'm going to increase my prices $1,000.
That would be ultimate transparency because no one else understands why it's happening.
That's true. Well, you get on another thing. If the same people come back and ask me for the same rates, I will inadvertently have to tell them I can't work for this price anymore. And they have either the option of either my work was good enough where they want to raise the pay, or Bruce Prenese, I wish he were here so that we could talk numbers. But he was saying he was working for a client and he got tired of the work, said, I don't want to work for that price. They upped the pay. Next year, same thing. And so he's just working his way up with that one client.
Well, that's the deal, right? It's weird to take into the art world, but if you go into the professional world, any job you're going to have with a corporate office, entry level is going to get paid less than someone doing the same job at another tier, or someone with a better degree, more degrees, or more work experience is going to get paid more than someone coming straight out of school or that's only had one job.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of a perpetuated myth when you're talking about like heavy skill sets. I mean, of course, if you're coming out of art school, you can't expect to get a job for Wizards or for the Jonathan Levine Gallery show like right out of the door. But I think that if you have a vision and the skill to do it, you could probably land one of those things. You shouldn't expect to, but I think every once in a while you will.
Yeah, the hope is always there, depending on the work you have behind you right now. Like, say for the fine arts, you don't necessarily have to have a million galleries behind you. You can just be that one breakout guy, but it's still having to work.
Well, so you're talking about, I'm going to turn it around. You're talking about climbing a ladder of sorts right now. I'm going to turn it to the way the other people see it, because we're talking about offering our own prices to people. So my idea is, when you're a kid, maybe you buy a pair of, think of corporations. Maybe you buy some Under Armour socks one day. They only cost you $5, $10. And you're like, you know what? I really like these socks. So maybe you go and you buy some shorts. They're, $20, $30, whatever. You would have never paid $30 for shorts until that moment. And then by the end, 3 years down the road, you're someone who loves Under Armour because they do quality work. And, if you do quality portraits, I think the same thing is very possible in saying like, you know what, you liked my portrait. Let me go up on the price because you liked it so much. And I think that's totally fair because it happens to us all the time.
Yeah, but the interesting thing with art, at least on that level, portrait painting, I think you find patrons that are willing to continue supporting that, and they understand, especially after they get the first portrait commission. There's a
Right.
higher chance in that field that people are going to be understanding and going to be actual patrons of art.
It would be really cool. You should do a you talk about finding people. What if they find you? Like or people finding you. What if you find them? What I'm saying is what if you were to create a Patreon of sorts or anything, and everyone who puts in $1 gets a chance to vote on what the next portrait will be, and they also get first chance to bid on it. I mean, how often do you get a chance to choose what the painter paints and then the first opportunity to bid on that thing? That's crazy. You should do that.
That's interesting. That would be, I think if I could manage it where I could do that painting and my
Hmm.
personal work tandemly, then
Well, you would offer the suggestions. They wouldn't suggest them. You would just throw it out there,
oh,
and then
right.
they
But I would want to do it where I just do the paintings for that, and then I have my own paintings.
kind of abstract. Yeah.
Yeah, or just any of my current work, because then that would be a way that, okay, that this painting can be my income for the month, and this painting is what I'm actually working on.
Right. Yeah, I think that having income is good.
Well, it's important to explore the different options for us, and something the reason I've kickstarted doing all of these paintings, I've got three I'm working on right now, is submitting to art shows, something I wasn't doing in the past, but every artist I talked to and everyone I've listened to has said that was a huge thing for them, was getting awards and entering all these different shows, even if they're not in-person shows, but just constantly applying and trying.
Right. It's free advertising.
Right. And whereas uh, Spectrum is the annual yearly thing, you might get in the book or you might win some of the awards there. Uh, there's always art shows everywhere. And sometimes the entry is $10, sometimes it's $50, but paying out money for that is worth
Right.
it.
Yeah. I don't know if I talked about this on the podcast, but our old teacher Ron once pulled me aside and told me his strategy for doubling his income was he would drop about $1,000 a year because most galleries will charge something like, I don't know, $2 a piece to enter, $20 a piece to enter. So he would drop $1,000, and even if he only won or sold, I think 3 to 4 things, then he would make that money back. Plus, somehow it worked out to where he was entering like 50 shows a year, and he was getting a minimum of an extra 20,000 a year from the buildup of awards that came with cash prizes or selling work. And some
Well,
of those
that
awards are, thousands of dollars.
yeah, some of them are huge. And then even if you get nitpicky, some of the awards are solo shows if you go that far down the pipeline. So the payout can
Right.
always be huge. And
And then
that's
once
right
you
about
have
Ron.
once you have a connection with a curator, curators are actually doing their job. Like they stay in touch with you. I still have curators that contact me sometimes, and like you will eventually get, as long as you stay in touch with them, they'll invite you to more shows. They want to stay in contact because they want to be the person that found you. They want to make you money because you're making them money when you make money.
So do you know any resources for shows in your field?
What?
Like fantasy art competitions, I guess, is what I'm asking.
I mean, really just like Spectra. As far as awards go, I think the award in the freelance industry has always been the money, the work that you get from producing. I don't like that. The awards are your Patreons now and your Kickstarters.
Hmm,
That's your
that's
awards,
interesting.
you
Because
know?
I think of gallery art and that most of those shows that you submit to on artshow.com, they have a prize system first through third. And even Jonathan Levine, they have an annual delusional art competition where I think first prize is you get a solo show, second prize is you get to be in a group show, and third prize is they feature you for a week on all of their social media services.
Hey, their delusional show just opened for entry like yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's open until May, so I'm rushing to get a lot done.
I bet you could. Your abstract pieces, I think, are of a quality to make it in there.
I'm super hopeful.
If you were to shop the one that you posted above your kitchen, if you were to shop that around to some shows, if you were willing to pay the shipping prices back and forth, I think within a year you would eventually price that thing at a huge amount. You would eventually make everything back and more. That painting would sell easily.
That painting would definitely sell, and a handful of people have contacted me to buy it, so I'm hanging on to that one.
Really?
Yes.
You're like, I don't need your money.
Just off of Instagram.
That's good.
It's not for sale. I'm working
You're offering
on new
prints,
ones,
though, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm currently researching different canvas printing services to sell it on.
Do you have a Costco?
Couldn't print that on paper. It wouldn't look anywhere near correct.
Right. Costco?
Yeah, we got Costco.
Costco has canvas printing that a lot of people use. Let me send you information on a print. There's a printer. I'm actually going to say it on the podcast. Let me go get it real quick. There's a printer that a lot of people use in this industry. I think that they do canvas prints. Pete and Sam over at One Fantastic Week use it, and a lot of other people have started using it. I can't find it right now. I'll post it in the description later.
Definitely. I have one bookmark that's a decent service. I think to print a 2x2 is about $110.
That is way too much. Don't pay that.
It's quality though. I want that quality.
Yeah, but anything you get printed on canvas is just canvas paper.
No, you're talking to someone who's stretched about 2,400 canvases over one fall. There's a difference in quality.
So you actually want to? There's no difference in the quality of the print though, of like the image.
Oh, well, that's just up to the printer.
But
it can be, and the image.
You're just paying a larger price for the material there. I don't know, man.
It's worth it. Go down to your local art shop and buy the lowest tier canvas that they sell, and then compare it to the highest tier that they have in there. There's a difference.
Yeah, I'm aware, but I don't know, man. I just don't. I know people like canvas prints. I don't care for canvas prints. That's just me.
That's fine.
I go for the paper. Go for the paper canvas. That's my 2 cents. Do that.
Paper canvas. Everybody go for the paper canvas.
I'm still looking for this thing, and I'm never gonna find it.
That's fine. How your ink drawings are going? You haven't even started.
Don't worry about it.
Alan keeps saying he's gonna do ink drawings.
I've done some blotches. I was actually gonna go out later and grab a piece of bamboo to cut up. I've been looking for dip pens. Yeah. And then I remembered that I was taught how to make one. So I was like, oh, I guess Todd has a whole thing of bamboo in his yard. So whoops.
Perfect. None of the pens we ever used in school were metal ink pens. They were all made from scratch.
The best pen I ever used was that bamboo pen.
Oh, it held ink beautifully and had a great line to it. You can't beat making your own materials.
Yeah. I can even make silver point now. You take a piece of silver and you drill it into a dowel, and then you cut it and you draw with it. It's really easy. You guys should try it.
Last piece of the puzzle is making brushes. That's all I need to do, so I can save a lot of money.
I can teach you how to make brushes.
Brushes that don't suck.
Elco Color Labs. EL-CO Color Labs.
I got you.
And you have to download their desktop plugin so that the prices are timely. I don't think they update their website anymore. But they have, apparently, they sell 12 by 18 prints. They sell them for $1 or something, $1. This is good.
That's
It's
crazy.
good quality paper. I've got one up there, Beats that I've touched. It's nice. InPrint actually makes good quality prints, but you should never pay InPrint prices. I would actually say that InPrint should be shut down as a website, but that's my 2 cents. Also, we were talking about catalogs earlier and annuals. I'm not submitting to Spectrum this year, and I would say that if I'm being honest, I don't know if other aspiring artists should submit to Spectrum either.
Tell us how you feel, man.
That's how I feel. I feel like Spectrum. So when I decided to get into this industry, this is how I really feel, is when we got into this industry, we were all amazed at illustrators. But with the slow crumbling demise of the publishing world, as far as newspapers, the rise of photographic resources, I think that you're looking at an actual limit to the amount of illustrators that are used in the publishing industry. Concept art industry and like 3D, that is only going up. But if you want to go into publishing, which I think is a lot of Spectrum, then I think that you are right now more actively competing with the seniors in your profession than ever before. And I think that it is near impossible to get a job that Donato could do if he's still alive. Because no one's gonna, because think about this, like how many books are actually released each year? How many of them are going to contact an illustrator over a photographer, especially first time writers where they're pretty sure they're going to go with photo anyway because it's cheaper. Patreon and Kickstarter is where it's at. And you're not going to get any business from that off of Spectrum. Mostly Spectrum is art directors and other artists looking at it. Very few people just pick Spectrum up to look at cool art. It's nothing associated with something they like. More people are going to buy the art of Star Wars than are going to buy Spectrum. So you should probably jump on one of those if you really want to, you know. No, you would already be. You wouldn't have to do that.
Right? We're in kind of a weird place where in illustration, at least, all the big dogs are really heavily established, and if you're not working for them or break out into a new publishing field, because if you want to do the big dog work, they already have their go-to names right now.
Right. And they're not going anywhere. I think that there are a few people doing it. Mika Epstein is someone that I met very young, and he got into the publishing field for Tor.com, for instance.
Right.
Kirby Fagan has done work for Dark Horse. We partied with Kirby over in Spectrum. Remember that?
Yeah, man.
And her friends over there. So I think there are some lucky people that get in, but I think you have just as much of a chance as doing that as you do to being accepted into a gallery or in Wizards straight out of school. No matter how good you are.
Well, I think that brings the situation to fine art and the more traditional print illustration is a much industry to break into than definitely concept art, and you said 3D art. As digital games and on the rise, concept art is needed out the wazoo, especially with CGI in movies. So
what I would break it down to is I've spent $1,000 over the years submitting to Spectrum, and that was my limit. Because if I had spent that $1,000 on, say, going to conventions or sending a postcard to every company I wanted to work for the last 5 years, I think I would have seen more from it than not getting into it. I'm back.
Hey, buddy.
When did I drop?
The start of the sentence.
Sorry. Cardinal rule, I'm going to do it. You don't have to. is that there is a limit to the amount of people that want to hire you to do art, but there is no limit to the amount of people that could buy art from you.
True.
There's probably only 4 publishers that are going to hire you, but there's about, I don't know, like how many people in America that want to buy a print? Millions?
Yeah. It's just the audience you've yet to reach.
Right. And they're out there. They're waiting on you to come out with that thing that you've been thinking about.
And
You don't
you've
even
been
know what it
thinking
is.
about it really
I don't even know what
hard.
it is. I'm just mad. I'm mad that I'm mad at myself for not
Why?
looking ahead. I was looking at an industry that I think was already closed off or becoming closed off. Not the people. The people are great. Everyone we've met is great, but the industry itself, it's full.
Yeah.
It's overflowing. It's like I don't know, Vietnamese orphanages after 1969. Anyway,
Well, we're at a unique stage of everything getting digitized and the rise of digital art and blah, blah, blah. The availability of artists is through the roof.
galleries are always looking for the next big thing. Gallery art is probably more lucrative than illustration right now, which is not usually the case. You know, everyone and their mom wants to start a gallery because galleries figured out they could be fully funded by doing drink and draws, rather than promoting artists. So now they're just like, whatever. Also, people have started renting art out. I didn't know. Did you know this? Museums rent art out.
Insane.
Yeah, they just, I mean, not like Monet's, but they pick an artist and they will host their show, a small section, and then they'll rent the art out, or people can buy it. But renting, whoever thought of that? Renting art.
It's an insane idea to me. It always will be.
Rent your art out.
And a lot of big galleries are recession proof, man, because if you have the disposable income to spend money on large pieces of art, then recession's not really going to bother you, and you're just going to keep buying art.
Right. Yeah, the amount you can get from liquidating that art might differ, but people are always, yeah, you're right. Also, art's a high commodity. We talk, especially in the gallery sense.
Unfortunately, but it is.
I will say that if you are someone who owns a painting, you should invite as many people as you know to see it, because I hate people that buy paintings and then hoard it in their house so only they can look at it. Hate
That's
that.
not for you. Share it with everybody.
So, art doesn't belong to you.
Don't be ashamed. Show it off. All your friends.
Also,
Even
if you
if
want
it
to
looks
buy any
terrible.
of my paintings to put in your house and not show to anyone, you can reach me at 662-719. I'm kidding. We got off on a lot there. Sorry, I got on a rant. I got
We
on a
needed
thing.
to.
I feel very spirited about Spectrum. I feel very spirited about the prices that people get paid.
It's all important things.
Because they're things that I don't want a younger me to repeat, which I think is the culmination of this entire show, is helping younger ourselves.
Yeah, that's the idea. Walking them through.
So they don't have to, yeah. Yeah. Did you guy like his portrait?
Yeah, man. Everybody loves it.
They
I
cried.
love it.
Did they cry?
Nobody cried.
Man, you don't want them to either. I was hired to paint someone's dog once, and while I was painting the picture of the dog died.
Oh man.
And so when I went to deliver the painting, the woman was just in tears because she liked it, and she was having a lot of different things going on, and I just could not handle it.
Like, oh no.
There was some in college I had gotten hired to do. You probably remember the little square portraits of the kids, and
Yes.
they were so bad, and I knew they were bad, and the people I was delivering to knew they were bad. So we're all just standing in like the lobby of their home, where it's just a really awkward moment where they know they have to tell me it's good and give me money, and no one wants this to happen.
Just a horrible situation.
Well, I say everyone. The wife or the mother was like, "I love them. They're going over the fireplace," and you could just tell the dad was so unhappy.
He just said, "Damn it."
Damn it! Got to give my money to this little shit.
I was glad to not, but I didn't feel any pressure as I went along in the painting. I always, before last year, it was always there, but painting a portrait because I was so concerned about getting it right. But now confidence is just through the roof after doing a drawing a day every day for 3 or 4 months now.
Well, also, you have portraits behind you. So when people commission you for a portrait, they can look at your portfolio and say, this is pretty much what my portrait's going to look like, you know?
Oh, yeah.
They're not hiring you and expecting something else. They're expecting what you're going to give them.
Definitely.
You know, because you've already set that premise. Whereas maybe before, if it was your first time painting a portrait, you might be like, oh, they don't even know what they're going to get.
Yeah, it's so nice. I had friends call me out of the blue the other day, and they said they were keeping up with all the paintings, and that was just a nice thing to have happen.
Yeah, it is. It's a good feeling. No, it is.
It goes in with the confidence.
I don't keep up with any of your paintings.
That's fine.
I'm kidding.
I don't want you to.
Oh, you know what? Fine. You know, I don't want to do this show anymore.
The portrait.
What portrait?
Of the one I was just working on.
You're confused.
You sent a thumbnail to me of it though, but it still worked.
Oh, I actually sent it when it got transferred to my computer, it had like decreased in size so much, and then when I sent it back to my phone, it had decreased even more. So something happened, and your full-size picture that I had taken from what you sent me was down to like bits, but it kind of worked out.
Tech support with Baron Allen.
Yeah, somehow this happened. I don't know. Bear's fighting with Windows updates. I'm over here dealing with this graphics card.
I hate Windows so much.
You know what I was thinking is with all these conventions going on and me having to really budget for those. I don't know if I'm in Emerald City yet. I asked the guy. He said he would let me know. And I'm so worried that like 3 days before the show, they're going to require me to spend $600 to go. And so I'm just holding on to that money for dear life. So someone's like, oh, you want to go do this? No, I don't have any money.
Well, surely when is it?
It's March.
Yeah, surely they have a cutoff for when they have to know what booths are taken up.
You never know, because people can like drop it. People can like drop out. They could have picked someone from the waiting list that then decides like, oh, I can't go either, and then I'm up. That happened to me with Rose City. So like 3 days before the show, they were like, pay us $500 and you can come to our show. And it's like, oh God. But no, with all the budgeting for that, I was thinking, if my computer died, and I still want to go to these conventions, then I'm gonna have to figure something out. And one thing I was thinking is like, I could start a GoFundMe if my computer dies, and I think that might. I'm hoping my computer doesn't die, but worst case scenario, if it happens, I think I might have to crowdfund my my art career.
That's all right.
Either a convention's going to come around and I'm going to make my money back and be able to buy a computer, or it's not.
Well, we'll diagnose your computer later and see what we can do.
Yeah. No, I think my computer's fine. I would just, you always want to have some insurance behind those things. And with the money tied up in conventions, it's like, oh, I have never been this much on a string before. If something goes, like I've always had some backup cash.
What other cons are on your list?
Emerald City Gen Con, Dragon Con, Norwest Con. I think I got into that one.
So still waiting to hear from Dragon Con?
Oh yeah, I'm going to Gen Con. And
Dragon Con.
Dragon Con, I don't think they've opened up their jury process yet, but cool. I will be doing that one. Unless the guys are so mad that I dropped out last year. And I might have to drop out this year. Heads up, but we'll see. It's just always at a weird time, August, September like that, because you're starting to work starting to slow down, and then last year I just couldn't make it. I had some work I needed to do, and
Right.
to me, it just didn't seem like I didn't need to pay $1,000 when I had only been to one convention. I didn't know really anything about it. I didn't want to spend that much money to learn experience.
Well, now you've got a solid plan.
Yeah, and I can build onto it. So we'll see.
Well, we need to do a before and after episode for the podcast on your preparation and then the return.
Are we going to a LexCon? Did we decide that?
Oh yes.
How far away?
October, November.
How far away? How far away is it? Philadelphia from you?
Really far.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
How far?
Super far.
It's only 12 hours.
That's pretty far, man.
That's what I drove to get to Indianapolis.
Why? You got Alex with you.
Yeah. I was just gonna fly down to Nashville because it's cheaper, and then we would drive to Philadelphia.
God, I guess that's so far.
Come on, man. Or if Sam's going, let's just go with Sam.
Let's see. We've got Gen Con on the list.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we can just stay at Gen Con until October and then hoof it
Forever.
to Philadelphia.
I think that's an even farther drive.
There's no way. I'm looking at a map. You really think so? Yeah, Josh is supposed to be coming. I got the ticket information. I gotta do that. No, it's a shorter drive by 2 hours.
Everyone Hanging Out podcast is gonna be at Gen Con.
What?
We'll advertise when and where. You can come talk to us.
Oh yeah, I guess people might want to do that. We should. No one at Gen Con's gonna want to talk to us.
We're hijacking Alan's booth for a day. We're gonna have an open bar.
Yeah, I'm gonna give the booth up. Actually, we will. If you're listening to the podcast, I'll say this right now, just to make sure we do it. If you're listening to this and you are not a Gen Con representative, we will have all of the makings for a gin and tonic behind the booth. And if you come up and you ask us for it, we'll give you one.
Please do.
We'll give you a small gin and tonic. Because I'm going to be totally honest with you, I went to Gen Con 2 years ago. It is so full of people, especially if you're walking around and don't have a booth to stake out. And it's so packed with you don't want to be there after a certain point. Not like it's bad, but you physically can't handle the sensory overload. And if I had not had a flask, I don't know if I could have. I had to numb my senses, or I couldn't have handled it. And then that was the first day. I'm kidding. No, eventually, you get your bearings, but afterward, it's so exhausting. And
it's quite a busy convention. There's a ton of people there.
And you don't want to stand outside someone's booth because you're taking up space when there's thousands of people that are possibly going to buy a print from them.
Maybe.
And yeah. So
probably
I don't know.
Not.
I can only have one other person behind the booth with me. It's like a rule. So we're gonna see.
It's gonna be Josh.
Yeah, I'll just have Josh over there. Josh might hate Gen Con.
That's his crowd, man.
It's a
people
lot.
Love his work.
A lot of mildly overweight people with beards and a black shirt and some blue jeans. That's your game.
You are going to this convention to sell to people, so.
Yeah, no, I talked to Todd about how weird some fans were. He was like, "Yeah, well, they bought me this house, so they're my people. I love them." Anyway, that's time.
That's the show. We talked about everything.
We did talk about a lot. There's just a lot we had to talk about. A lot I had
hanging
to
out. Welcome to the Hang Out podcast, everybody.
I think we're getting more comfortable. We're having art conversations that we would have normally had anyway. We need to do, we always have these grandiose ideas about doing an all day hangout, but I'm saying we should do a late night. We should do a pregame hangout or something.
For sure. We do that this week.
Adults only. No kids. Let's do an extra episode. Let's do that this week. You wanna? Are we
Bear and
playing?
Allen bonus episode.
We should just hang out, make some drinks, and do some art.
Coming at you then.
That way we don't have to worry. It's a bonus episode. I don't have to worry about it. I can do some paintings while I'm talking.
Perfect.
What day do you want? There's something else I had to ask you while we're on the show.
Okay. Ask me.
I don't remember.
That's a bummer.
Well, I guess you're just gonna have to sit here quietly while I think about it.
I edit it out anyway. I pretty much go back and edit out all of the pauses in the show.
Do you? I would prefer it if you went back and edited me out completely.
It's just me talking and asking questions to nothing.
No, leave the pauses in after every question, as if they just can't hear me.
Welcome to Hanging Out with Bear podcast, where you get to imagine your own conversation with Bear.
Oh, you should do that. And then there's multiple choice. How hard is it to set up a Baldur's Gate style conversation with you?
It's hard to set up a normal conversation with me, so
that it is. He's right. Do you know what hoops every week he hides from me? I have to somehow get him on the phone and say we have to do this. He never wants to do the podcast. I feel like you want to, but you want me to work for it.
Yeah, I would say your goal is difficult but achievable.
I feel like that's art in a nutshell. If you have any critiques, comments, concerns, if you want to be on our show, if you want to support us, you can find us hangingoutpodcast@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook, Hanging Out with Bear and Allen. I'm Alan Mars, alanmarsart.com.
I'm Bear Isles, BearIslesArt.com.
Look forward in the future for a Patreon where you can give $1 and support the show. It's not out yet, but I'm putting out some feelers.
In the works.
Let us know what kind of stuff you want to see. And yeah, actually, if you're doing something you really want to be on the show, come on, because Bear gets tired of talking to me sometimes.
Pretty much.
We'll see you later.
See you later. Look for the bonus episode.